It's the most exciting thing that's happened to me all day.
Muffins are good. I haven't had a muffin in a while. I should eat a
You
muffin
should get a
sometime.
muffin.
The block of carbs that it is.
Hmm. Is this me? I'm assuming it's me.
I think so.
All right. Around when the high-flying sun slowly started to drop into shadow, the silver coupe speeding along the tollway. For long, the Katsuragawa parking area. A short break, change pace.
God, we could use that.
Want to stop at the next rest area too?
Seriously.
What's wrong?
ちょっと疲れたみたい。
Well, we did spend a long time driving with no destination in mind until we finally made up our minds, so that makes sense.
That decision really took a lot out of her mentally.
Yeah. And that probably wasn't unreasonable, considering those two things. She'd been pretty energetic a while back, and that was taxing on patients as sick as we were. And I'll go buy something for you. I'll be back in a second. Rushed over to the snack stand and picked up a few things no different from the standard convenience store fare. Here, a Pocari Sweat and rice balls and potato chips. We now know what Pocari Sweat is. Her response was the same as ever. She didn't start eating at all. Under usual circumstances, she'd already have torn into the potato chips by now. Are you okay? Could it be that you're not feeling so well?
薬が切れただけだから。
Well, that's not good. I see. So she was out. I'd been scared of that. Well, yes, when we escaped from the hospital, it was obvious it was going to happen. I mean, when you think about it, that was probably... No, I wouldn't assume that the hospital would make that assumption that they'd just be back anyway once they were in out of medication, because that seems like a risky bet. To be clear, it wasn't as if we were intentionally leaving the meds behind. Well, speak for yourself. But I hadn't even thought about it up until now. I hadn't even had the senses to think about it. When did you run out?
昨日の夜。
So you'll have been off them for 24 hours pretty soon. The doctors had told me that I could go on without my meds for 2 days or so. Maybe she was the same way. When I thought about it, it had been 8 days already since we left the hospital. Given the amount of meds I brought with me, I could see the end of the line coming into view. Just what was I supposed to do?
私、7回は嫌よ。
Yeah, I know. You don't want to be at home either. The silver coupe in motion once again. Maybe I'm thinking about this too, like logically or harshly or whatever, but like I could just, if she ends up like dying out here, like I would not even, like if I were her parent, like and this guy came back without her.
He'd probably be facing some legal stuff. Gonna tell you what, but
I wasn't even thinking about legally. I would just be like, how do you? I wouldn't be able to live with myself, first of all, and then, like, of course he knows, what her, that she didn't want to be there at all, like, or home, or in the hospital, but like, just facing her parents saying like, "Yep, I just took her to a better place to die without your knowledge.
I guess.
You're welcome. I fulfilled her wish for you. Don't worry about it."
No
Like-
need to thank me. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
can we have her body? Nope, I buried it
Exactly.
somewhere.
I thought about that. I thought that flashed through my mind when talking about like what if she had just like dripped off the sea. I'm like, cool, you just returned with no body to her family. And even just knowing that he has to, well, he doesn't have to, but like if he does plan to like go home without her if she dies here, like if you want to take her body, you just have that body in the car. The whole way back. I'm pretty sure he would like call someone, them to come to him or something. Being that it's like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I should be thinking like too hard about it, or like the symbolism. But eventually, I got off the tollway at the next exit. I didn't know that was going to change things, but it wasn't as if staying on the tollway was going to help. Oh, I didn't know how that was going to change things. I headed into an urban area from one tollway exit. I don't know what a one tollway is, but then I looked for a pharmacy attached to a large hospital, not to a small private clinic. Probably it would have been best just to go to the hospital. Oh, you think? And for any normal patient, that would have been obvious. But we were inhabitants of 7F. The ID bracelets around our wrists were white, not blue. The window's only open 15 centimeters. We rescued these from 7F at that. I circled around the neighborhood as I held those thoughts in my mind. Probably we'd be able to find what we needed at a pharmacy near a large hospital. 見つけた. University Hospital at a major intersection, and a couple pharmacies clustered next to it. I figured that this was as good as it got, and stopped the car in a vacant lot. Hey, give me your medication bag. She handed the bag over to me with a curious look on her face. I looked into that and took out the medication list therein. This is just what I needed. Alright, I'll be right back. Leaving her in the car, I ran toward the nearby pharmacy. The automatic door slid open and I walked in. I headed directly for the counter.
Welcome.
A middle-aged man came to a counter to greet me. Probably a pharmacist, given his white coat.
Or a mad scientist.
Sure. Oh man, what a twist. They get kidnapped and they have to suddenly have to escape this guy. It's because of a horror movie. Or VN. Could I have these drugs, please? Can you give me all the drugs? These drugs.
Yes, of course. Just a moment, let me get you something to sniff it off of while I'm at it.
Thanks, you're the best. The medication list that I had given him, he retreated into the interior of the pharmacy with my drugs. Probably this was a pharmacy affiliated with the hospital, not just your standard pop outfit.
Are there mom and pop pharmacies? That doesn't seem...
I was not. I was like,
I don't
sure.
think a mom and pop could just own a pharmacy. That doesn't. I mean,
If
maybe
they're
it
a
is,
mom
I don't
and
know.
pop who are pharmacists.
Yes.
Wait, no. I think The Walking Dead, right? Lee's dad owned a pharmacy or something like that.
You're right.
I mean, I feel like it's more just like when you're a pharmacist, you can have your own, like if you own your own clinic, like if you own your own little pharmacy. I don't know. You gotta get the drugs from somewhere, so I don't think they're just making it in the back.
Family business operated by Mr. Everett, Mrs. Everett, and the Everett brother, B. Everett. His father was the main business overseas. Yeah, okay, I guess. Yeah, good point. I didn't really think about that, but.
That's literally the only example I can think of, so it might not be common. Gotten my meds dispensed from places just like this back when I was attending outpatient clinics. So yes, they are common.
I guess if you're still abiding by like federal regulations or whatever, I guess it's probably fine. It's just a weird thought.
Yeah, I agree. After all, it was right next to the hospital, so this place should have the meds we needed.
Thank you for waiting. Here you are. How come this guy gets the pharmacist tagline? Why can't the other characters have their goddamn names?
I thought it was weird.
Guy?
Something about him, like the dialogues, I was like, this seems off, and I don't know why. It's because they're telling us who he is.
Fucking nobody else ever got that.
Good catch.
They realized in like the last half of the game, oh, maybe we should have some dialogue tag, or not, character name tags or whatever.
Yes.
Fucking ridiculous.
True that. The pharmacist had come back after a short time. He was holding 2 plastic bags, each of them full of medication bottles. Man, it was easier to get her medication than I thought it would be. With that amount, we'd be fine for now. That would probably last her for a week or so. When I took out my wallet from my pocket,
May I see your prescription?
what?
Oh, yeah, these are prescription medications. I'm calling the police.
Right?
Your doctor did give you one, yes.
I've forgotten about this. The law. The stuff. I mean, was it not?
I would think that
the
what's
bag?
her face has it.
I know.
Sesame would have it with her.
Don't they staple it to the bag? To the bag.
Well, yeah, when they give it to, that's when like you receive drugs, you'll get like a thing stapled to it when you go and order them. I don't know. It's been a while since
These were no ordinary medications, so I couldn't just waltz in and buy them. So I should have thought about that.
Is something the matter?
No. Well, as I stammered and stuttered, the pharmacist looked on with suspicion.
Wait, that's
Is he gonna see the bracelet? Yeah, of course he is. What? Why do you still have it on? I thought about that too last night. I was like, at some point they keep mentioning this bracelet. I'm like, someone's gonna just be like, that's weird. And then he noticed the white ID bracelet on my wrist with the letters inscribed on it. I should probably not have it on me. My name, my blood type, and then the name of the hospital. Whoosh.
oh, get back here! Get back here! We gotta run away!
Jesus Christ. The medication that he left on the counter. I swiped them up all at once, and I did it.
Hey, stop right there! We gotta run up! Get him back here!
Now they're really on the run, because I guarantee that guy is gonna, like, know exactly who to call. Started at me from across the counter, but that was my back. I'd already started sprinting. Only 5 meters to the door. My legs were weak. I was wobbly. Arms are heavy. I'm all spaghetti. And when I was about to sprint out the slowly opening door of the pharmacy, I got tackled. Just then, my senses whited out for a second. I hit my head on the edge of the automatic door so hard that apparently the glass of the door had shattered. Oh, Jesus.
That's not good.
Dizzy, almost syncopal.
And now that you're down... Bad.
Right. He starts kicking him.
This is what you get for trying to steal prescription drugs.
You know? Then I broke off into a dead sprint. Oh, wow, he still just kept going. I did not once let those medications go, because my legal Wally needed them. I was so out of breath that I felt like fainting. And a few more meters to the car, but it felt much longer. Nobody was giving chase to me, it seemed, but I didn't have the time to be looking behind me anyway. Why wouldn't he? Because I got caught. And what would happen to her? Would she wait for my return forever alone in that car? I ran for dear life with those feelings at heart. See, this is the someone call a doctor, but not for me. But acceptance I really needed rare. Staggered, breath, saddened that this was all the strength I had. I clapped in the driver's seat and flipped the pedals. I was forced to realize that I was even weaker than I was at the pachinko parlor. When I checked myself in the rearview mirror, there was blood on my forehead, maybe from a glass shard. Well, hopefully the bleeding would stop soon enough. I applied pressure with a tissue as I drove.
大丈夫
Yep, I'm fine.
でも血が出てるし
Don't worry about it. It's nothing. I just fought a losing battle with a glass door. I waved my hand to tell her not to worry, and she looked at me with concern. Then I handed over the medications that I had tightly clutched in my left hand. Here, take your meds. These drugs. This guy gave me something to snort them with. And now we would be fine. Those meds would last for maybe a week. But what were we going to do when that ran out? I managed to get by pretty well today, but it was obvious that I was losing strength daily. We originally had no plan or destination. You could not feel any fear of losing something you did not already have. But things were a little different now. Purpose had been born, so fear of losing that purpose had also been born. A painfully clear day. The empty expanses of the high heavens of winter above us. Back on the expressway. And now we had passed from the Suita Junction onto the Hiroshima Road. Where are we going next?
神戸ジャンクションから
Got it. To the Sanyo Expressway. Silver Coupe, moving according to her navigation. By now, on the roadside distance indicators. Every so often the words Awaji Island were appearing. We had already come 900 kilometers since we'd escaped from 7F that day. I'd never believed that we would have made it. But our final destination was not far from us now. And soon we could see a large bridge ahead of us. So is this the Kashi Kaikyo Bridge? Pretty incredible, huh? It was hard to suppress the triumphant feeling, as if we could drive across the ocean on its expanse. After we'd driven along for a while, there were people stopped at the roadside here and there en route to their bridge. Probably tourists or something, seeing as they were taking pictures and stuff. And just like those people, I stopped the car on the shoulder of the road.
ここ駐停車禁止よ。
Well, they're doing it. And if it's just for a little while, it'll be okay. And as far as the eye could see, there were other cars that had done the same. See? Hey, come on. Let's get some fresh air. Probably an awesome view.
わかった。
She was still a little reluctant, but she got out of the car with me anyway. Peer pressure. In the midst of the strong cold winds atop the bridge. Oh, this is colder than I thought it would be. It was all too much for us, since we'd never really gotten out of the car. In stark contrast to us, there were two people who seemed to be a couple not far from us. Couldn't be me. Looked like they were taking souvenir photos. Their happy voices carried all the way over to us. When I looked around those two, I saw lots of families and tourist groups taking photos too. Souvenir photos, huh? Fair enough. One is supposed to take them at places like this. I do recall him mentioning. Yeah, I was gonna say, he had a disposable camera, I think. Come to think of it.
どうかした？
Yeah, wait for a second.
うん。
There was a camera in here somewhere. When I inspected the car interior for the first time around, I saw a cheap disposable camera somewhere, I remembered. I still had a few shots left in it, if memory served. Having found the camera, I checked the film indicator. Oh, good. Still 2 shots left.
Don't mess up.
I know, don't throw away your shot, man. Cover the wait. Come on, I'll take a picture of you. A photo. Might as well, you know?
嫌よ。
Oh, come on, don't be like that. Strike a pose or something. And I held up the camera toward her as I said this. Come on, we're the most boring couple in the world, but you can do this. Come on, look a little happy, won't you? What? As if she were embarrassed. Even when she turned to me, she had a little sour look on her face and said nothing more. Or nothing more. But it could well have been. But even if she looked this way, she was trying her best to smile for me right now. With this at heart, I was about to take a picture of her when...
Excuse me, did we ask you to take a picture?
No. I mean, yes, of course. Two people who look like a couple, coming toward us, holding a camera. Cool, just fuck me then. Never mind what I was doing. I'll take the picture now.
Oh my god, please do.
They stood close to each other, happily, and a flash brilliant smile as it made me sick. Normally should explode. I centered those two in their viewfinder and snapped a photo.
There we go. Thank you very much, bro.
Oh, sure, brah.
And now we'll take a picture of you two. Like, take for tab or whatever.
Oh, okay. But we're also not...
Nah, dude, we're like tight as hell now. Using this cheap ass thing, sure, whatever, dude. You're like about vintage.
Alright, can I push your boyfriend off the bridge? Oh, wait, before I could answer. Before he could answer, he'd taken my camera. Damn it. No, it's more like he plucked it out of my hand. Oh, God.
So it's stronger than me.
Ugh. Probably wanted to get it over with as soon as possible, which is why he took the camera and ignored our hesitation.
Alright, you two, get closer now. You look super uncomfortable around each other, and do not seem to have any sort of romantic chemistry, but we're doing this anyway.
At those words, I stepped a little closer to her body and tried not to rip his face off. And with her usual lack of expression, she helplessly stepped a little closer to me.
Like, shouldn't you be posing a bit more? Aren't you guys, like, in love?
Oh God, Setsumi, is this what I sound like? When I was asking you to strike a pose. This man's boyfriend character and his crazy man's stupid girlfriend standing to the side looking a little apologetic. Okay, so she's probably cool. And telling myself that I had no other choice. I slowly put my arm around her shoulder. First time I'd ever touched her. This is great. Love this for me. Feeling her childlike clothing and her waist-length hair under my hand. I can see her face now that I was done. I couldn't see her face now that I was looking straight at the camera. But me, just maybe. She was gracing me with that never-before-seen, shy, bashful, slightly sour look.
Okay, I'm taking the picture now.
Their business over, the couple started heading back to the car.
This is like generally when we say, okay, one more, but you guys like only have one more on this thing, so I'll let you save it.
That's webtoon.
I'm... What?
It's an ad.
Timmy, you're not a nuisance. I'm just...
You're not a nuisance, I'm just
on the
annoyed.
phone.
What? Wait, what did you
I
say?
don't mean to interrupt. I just don't know when you're on the phone.
Alright. And we were doing the same.
Interrupting couples on their phone.
I'm a girl. Pretty bad misunderstanding, eh? We have like no chemistry whatsoever. Or could it be that we look that way to others because of their own low standards of what chemistry looks like? My words spoken lightly and in jest. She just nothing. She's giving me nothing. And enjoying myself for some reason. Kept speaking to her in that tone. do you? Oh God. That's me. What do you think? What do you think? Am I? You know what this car's made out of? Boyfriend material.
何よ年下のくせに
With those words, as usual, she turned back to look out the window. I don't think my flirting went very well. Just as usual, I couldn't see what kind of facial expression she was wearing, so... Great. But... I could tell that she wasn't looking far into the distance. She was turning away because I was making her bashful. I got game. Spacious sky above our heads, spreading out into the distance with wintry clarity. Arrival at the Simoto interchange, not far from that bridge, exiting off the expressway back onto the normal highways. So, finally made it. The odometer indicated that we'd come over 900 kilometers ever since the day we'd escaped from Savannah. We'd arrived at last at a destination that we hadn't cared about at the onset. I mean, you cared. You brought it up several times. Then, where do we go from here?
南に
South. Got it. I took the route as per her instructions. In truth, even I knew where to go at this point. I could see the sign of the Tourist Information Center from here. But without a second thought, obeyed her navigational instructions. That was the way it had to be, and it could not be any other way. How was it that I came to think that way? Well, alright.
No.
2 more chapters. Yeah.
Scene time.
Yup. Around when the day was slowly being dyed orange. A sandy beach in winter, nobody in it. Pine groves swaying in the cold winter wind. I stopped the car at this beach and turned over the driver's seat to her. Can your feet reach the clutch pedal?
大丈夫
Yeah. Okay, now shift the gears from neutral to second.
知ってるわよ
Okay. Now do as you will.
分かった
She stretched out with all her might, stepped on the clutch, and grasped at the steering wheel with concentration. I leaned forward in my seat, instructing her as best I could. Good. I gently let up on the clutch. And then, all nervous, she... What?
Wow.
Oh. Just as expected, the engine started to knock horribly. Okay, next time, let up on the clutch a little more gently. She did say this confidently enough, but she really didn't have any skill at all. She was trying so hard that she was even pursing her lips. I couldn't help but feel that it was really charming because usually she had no expression at all on her face. Hey, you almost look like you're hungover.
分かってるわよ
The silver coupe, not quite noisy, courtesy of the crack in its muffler. Almost like a song of lamentation arising from the beach that had no one in it. Around when the sunset had faded away into nightfall, around when the sea breeze had changed into a land breeze. Before we knew it, the enormous moon had risen in the night sky. It looks like you've more or less gotten the hang of it. Along with this reply, she smoothly shifted into third gear. Her foot on the clutch was smooth and sure. She had free run of the entire narrow sandy beach. If you can do this, then you'd probably be able to get a license a year without going to driver's school.
そうなの？
Well, take what I say with a grain of salt. After all, I'm not a certified instructor or anything. It wasn't as if we were planning on getting our license at this late hour. We both knew that. We had a map, we had our meds. And though it had a broken muffler, we had this silver coupe. But we had no time. We had no future. And because I knew this, it was all the more painful to me. Well then, I'll give you mine instead. My license? Wow, okay.
By the power
Saying
of
this,
me,
I now pronounce you
legally
driver.
driving double.
Saying this, I took out my own license from my pocket. This was a license I thought I'd never use. The proof of a normal world that I thought I'd already lost. Here, as a substitute for your license. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do with this?
使う時間なさそう。
Go ahead and take it. After all, I'm in the same boat. 7F, which no one had ever left alive. High ceilings, windows that only opened 15 centimeters, white ID bracelets. Third time was the end. She was on her second time, this was my first. So here, congratulations, you're a license holder.
ありがとう。
With a tiny bow, she received the license from me. Now she was a certified driver as well. In what world was this one?
I don't know if that's how that works.
It's not, but the sentiment's there. She could drive any car she wanted to and go anywhere. Not just on a sedan or even a convertible. I was sure that a girl like her could find places to love no matter where she went. After we'd driven around for a bit more, we arrived at our destination, the place where the Narcissu bloomed. We're already here. This was supposed to be a new tourist attraction. I'm guessing the last episode is probably going to be like,
An epilogue.
well, yeah, however it ends with her death here or whatever. This is supposed to be a tourist attraction. Whether it was because it was so distant, or whether it was because it was night, there was no one around. Underneath the pitch-black curtain of night, we were waiting in the car for dawn to come.
あかり、 けないの？
No, because it looks like the battery's almost gone.
そうだね。
Totally dark cabin. The motor turned off. The dim panel lights to reflect our wan, self-same profiles. Should I get wan meats?
Wand. Division. W-A-N.
Yep.
Pale and giving the impression of illness or exhaustion.
Hmm.
Pale, weak, strange. I have never heard that used that way before.
I've heard of waning crescent, but I don't know why. Maybe that's why it's waning means like
Fading, kind of.
yeah. Like it's getting smaller is what I thought. Yeah. Fading is probably better. Not a single word exchanged as we waited for dawn inside this car devoid of any other light or sound. In the pile of clothing to be washed in the back seat, thick jeans and sweaters and a few hand towels. We had grabbed a bunch of those things and spread them on top of ourselves since we had no blankets. It's cold, huh?
Mm.
You can come closer if you want. It's okay, so come on over.
No, I don't think I will.
Yeah. You're shivering in the passenger seat and deal. That's never gonna happen. Well, I mean, knowing how this game is progressing, it most certainly probably will, but realistically, no. It'd probably be warmer this way.
別に私は平気よ。
She was shivering, yeah, she said this. Our beds were frosting. She was obviously bluffing.
それともあなたが寒いから来てほしいの？
Well, that's fine too.
じゃあわかった。
Just went over to where I was, and then diffidently curled up on my lap. See? It's a little warmer this way, right? The windshield frosted over from the cold outside air. We could now see nothing past its white icy overlay. But it would be dawn soon enough. And when the time came, we could see white clouds spreading to one side of us. Gradually, the night gave way to dawn. So they can't even see it now? That's just making me think, like, man, what if the biggest kick in the pants is that, like, when light comes, there's no flowers or something?
I mean, it is winter time. I wouldn't be
Exactly.
too surprised. It's like, oh, they're not in bloom.
Yeah. Gradually, night gave way to dawn. The rising sun rendered the sky purple and then white. And along with the dawn, so many white flowers spread themselves out before us. Or so we had hoped. Okay, well,
Wow.
no?
Looks like there's some...
Yay. Radiant whites and yellows appearing where there had only been darkness before. Before we knew it, we'd come out of the car and we were staring at the scenery. It's incredible.
うん。
Countless number of Narcissi? Is that the plural form of Narcissi? Narcissi spreading out as far as the eye could see.
I mean, octopus is octopi, so I guess Narcissus is Narcissus.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. virgin white of the flowers, amplified by the morning dew, descending like a carpet that led into the ocean itself. And in the midst, our exchanged words, and our breaths frosting white in the chilly air. We'd come a long way since that day that we saw these same flowers on that boring TV. We'd come all this way, despite the fact that we'd had no plan or destination. Oh, believe you me, we are very much aware. These are exactly the ones. How nice, huh?
厳密に言っても同じ。
And that's great. I didn't really know what the distinction was for those absolutely beautiful flowers on TV that day. And compared to those, the one before our eyes weren't as big or as well shaped. But they were alive, here and now, in this place.
綺麗。
Like us. Unclear, boring, ordinary. That's me. But I'm giving them too much shit, aren't I? I don't know. Cold and unrelenting reality that answered to no. In this world so filled with things that could not be seen, in this world so filled with things that could not be touched. Here and now, right before my eyes, there lived something that I could see and touch. And right here as well, the shards of all things unseeable were scattered everywhere. The falling snow coming down out of the pure white January sky that looks more like rain to me, but okay. It had been 2 days since, but we were still here. We could not leave. Oh God, this is. Yep.
This seems like a bad situation. So,
Yep, that the tone shift. Hey, are you okay?
多分
Popping tonight. Her condition was rapidly worsening. She had tilted our seat back all the way down, and we were mainly staying in one place to let her rest. She'd taken her medications, but they'd had no effect, and her condition did not improve one whit. Yep. But we are inhabitants of 7F. It was her second time already in the first place, so it was not surprising that something like this might happen. Hey, do you want to go back?
あなた帰りたいの？
Yeah, just a little.
7回それとも家？
I don't know. What I did know was that it would come to this sooner or later. And my fate would not be much different. It was incredibly tough for me to be able to do nothing but be by her side.
serious time passage going on.
Yep. Rain that did not seem likely to let up. Drops of water falling from the twilight sky. The glistening white narcissi in the rain, visible from the car window. Hey, you know, I pointed at the white flowers visible in the windshield as I said this. You said that those were Narcissus, right?
ナルシスが語源よ。
What you said? Narcissus. There was another word I was reminded of. Funny, since I thought that it was a unique one up until... You mean as a narcissist? Well, we are going to touch on stuff. No
もと
nomenclature.
もとが神話だからいろんな説があるんだけどね。
And she slowly began telling me the story as I looked and listened in admiration.
誰からも愛されるナルシス。妖精のエコーもそんな彼が好きな一人だった。
So this is like
でもエコーは
right?
Yeah.
相手と同じ言葉しか話せない。
Repeat the words?
そう。だからナルシスに先に彼の口から愛してるって言ってもらわないとエコーは自分の気持ちを伝えることができないの。
She continued her story desolately, with a sorrowful voice. Her eyes looking far into the distance, somewhere just as they had before all of this.
でもそんなこと絶対にありえない。どんなに夢見て憧れても最後にはナルシスに呪いをかけてしまうの。
So that he would fall in love with his own self, with his own reflection in famous waters. I didn't know that was her that
そし
did
て
it.
自分の姿を見続けたナルシスはいつしか綺麗な花へと姿を変えてしま
Yeah,
う。
this is a different
それがこの花
version.
ナルキッソスの語源よ。
Maybe the Japanese interpretation of the Greek
Probably.
myth or whatever, something like that.
Probably.
I don't remember him turning into a flower either. He just died or drowned or whatever.
Yeah, I know the version like a dragon. She made a little sigh when she finished her talk. I'd also grown sad just by listening to it. Echo, who could never fulfill her wish, she didn't seem all that different from us. So what happened to Echo after that?
いないわ。呪いをかけるときに消えちゃったから。
Disappeared. What meaning was there in that? She disappeared without the curse accomplishing anything? She disappeared having caused only pain for Narcissus?
どうかした？
No. But you know, you're different. You wanted me yourself some time ago. Yo, you asked me yourself some time ago. I was like, what? Whether I cursed my own fate, the one I couldn't do anything about.
私は諦めているから。時間の止まった私。
It's been so many seasons, so many white overcast skies, without the want or need to converse with
いつ
anybody.
から私は一人なのだろうか。目を閉じても世界は消えない。
Whenever I cover my ears, the sound of rain would not stop. I knew that all too well.
Hey, are you okay? Before dawn, I reached over to the passenger seat and was stroking her back. It was 2 days afterwards now, and now even those ineffectual meds were all gone. Jeez, I thought a week. But they were better than nothing. With that in mind, thinking to head to a pharmacy, I reached for the keys. I was about to ignite the engine when
いいから
she stopped me with her frail voice. But at this rate, you...
どうせもう聞かない
Well, that might be true, but... It was as she said. I didn't think the same meds would do a thing for her, either. It was just too hard for me to sit there and do nothing, even if I knew that. Then, let's go somewhere else.
別の場所
Yeah, someplace that isn't this lonely. Okay, let's decide on our next destination. Look, anywhere would be fine, so be my navigator again. I was speaking in a voice so cheerful that even I couldn't believe it. Speaking so brightly all by myself to the girl who was just staring into the distance. Even though I knew that it was futile. It had been over 2 days, 3 days really. She'd not had her meds. I knew that. Hey, so tell me, do you want to go somewhere?
別に
Yeah. No, I figured. That's right, you like cars, so wanna get on the expressway again?
別に
Then how about no clothes? Let's go buy some. You want some too, right? Betsy.
別に
What do you mean, Betsy? With that, she went back to gazing out the window. She wasn't looking at the Narcissu, but once again into the faraway distances. That oh so rare, sour, bashful expression was no longer even a possibility. Why do you have to be like that? You and your incessant Betsy's. Wouldn't it be nice to look straightforward for a bit? I started shouting before I knew it. Strangely, it was all really sad. Nothing should have been real to me, yet my heart ached. The car was in total silence. Outside the window, the flowers of January, Narcissi. Outside the window, we're swaying in the morning twilight before dawn. And there she was, staring at something far, far more distant than these white flowers. The distant sound of the sea waves was the only thing that held dominion here.
前向きになって晴れるわけないじゃないの
Darkened car, her sudden, quiet voice.
憧れて懸命になって勘でも
Ah.
その時に無理だったねって。
Her eyes, which had been focused on the far distance, were now staring straight at me from the passenger's seat.
私にできることは最初から諦めて何も望まずにいて、やっぱり無理だったと冷めた目で自分を見ることしかできないのよ。
My sister is having a breakdown in the background. I'm sorry if you can hear that.
Is everything okay?
I have no idea. I was like trying to be immersed, and then in the distance I hear myself. My sister screaming about whatever she's screaming about. I'm like, yep.
I hear the occasional no. I'm not sure what she's saying no to.
I have no idea. It could literally be anything. She could be watching a TikTok. She could be reading. She could be watching an anime. And now Pooch is staring at me like, yeah, I don't know what's up with her. What is she? Stop screaming! She was screaming for the first time. It was usually so hard to get any expression out of her. And yet now her shoulders were heaving a little, and tears were falling from her eyes.
あの時頑張っていたらもしかしたらって
Just trying to get to the climactic emotional scene here, and Emmy's just overpowering it with rage.
I think she's yelling at Dad for something. I think he said something dumb, and she's just ripping into him.
最初から無理だと分かっているんだからそれぐらいいいじゃないの。
Jesus! What? Stop screaming!
Your house is pure chaotic energy.
I sometimes just think it would be like, oh, I found more! I found more! What is wrong with Pooch? Anyway, God, let's just jump right into it, guys. Let's just try to get through this, at least in this chapter, without another interruption. I feel like we're nearing the end of this one. The night sky, visible above the windshield. Nothing but the moon showing its face in the sky before dawn. The occasional roar of the sea waves and the sound of her weeping. She may have been fundamentally similar to Echo after all. Able only to say the same single thing over and over, but will say nothing, wish nothing, and see nothing for herself. Able to do nothing but give up. Her veto of both 7F and her home was probably her first and last act of defiance.
Literally. We could have just made it through like 4 more lines. We could.
Nope.
Oh my
god.
God.
Of course not.
That's that. That is the way we do things.
Yeah. Want to finish a chapter without interruptions? No, we don't do that here.
2 more lines until you would be at a fair enough stopping point for chaos. Nah.
Nope.
Just before.
Frosted sea, February. The chilling, bone-piercing wind. The occasional rustle of the pine groves in the wind. The peaceful timbre of the sea roar. Timbre of the sea roar. Hey, this is about all we got.
Timbre.
Timbre, apparently, because English.
Timbre.
Yep. Character or quality of musical sound or voice as distinct from its pitch and intensity.
Yeah, I knew the definition,
Timbre.
but I just never actually heard it said.
Since it's English for you, timbre, somehow.
I handed her a towel that said Shiraishi construction on it, the one we'd used way earlier to spread ourselves off. Oh, come on, don't make such a face. She accepted the towel with slight disappointment. Out of the blue, she said that she wanted a swimsuit, but that presented another problem in and of itself. Because she wanted it here now, and a bikini on top of that. Having no other course of action, I rummaged through the car, but I never found anything other than that white towel. And after I'd waited a little while, she came into view, wearing her favorite skirt, with that towel wrapped around her breasts. Well, even if you ask me that...
変じゃない。
Well, probably you do. No, I mean you look completely fine. You don't look weird at all. I totally have a way with women.
わかった。
And then she slowly started walking about the beach. The breaking and ebbing waves, her long hair wafting in the cold sea breeze. As if the sky wanted to spite us, it was beginning to snow little by little. And amidst all of that, she was holding her shoes in her hand. And walking at the water's edge, exultantly, as if she was flying with every step.
ねえ。それっぽく。
Yeah, I guess. Both of our breasts frosted white in the midwinter cold. And I brought about the disposable camera that had been in the car. I brought out that old camera from before. One more picture left. Alright, I'm gonna take your picture. See, it'll be even more right this way. Saying this, I pointed the camera toward her. Come on, don't get shy on me now, okay? The beach, the girl, now in the viewfinder of the camera. Whether it was because she was tense or bashful, she had a facial expression that was far more complex than usual. Oh, come now. Why don't you strike some kind of pose?
でも、
No ifs, ands, or buts now. Come on. No bikini model stands stock still like that.
わかった。
Looking a little awkward, but still trying with all her heart. She bashfully lowered one hand to her hip and stretched out the other one high overhead. That arm stretched forth toward the clear winter sky, as if it were grasping for something, all anime-like, as if it were reaching out for something. It was being held straight up into the heavens, with the emerald sea as its backdrop. Okay, then one last thing. Smile. Smile for me. That's me.
何よ、年下のくせに。
50-50 shot.
In saying this, she smiled for me for the first time, and was probably the last. That girl, clad in her favorite skirt and that white towel, smiled for the final shot that camera had. Smiled with the Emerald Sea as her backdrop. Smiled as if she were an honest-to-God bikini model. Alright, then next, shall we try something more of an action pose? Happily, exuberantly, she splashed around in the water. And even though the camera was now utterly exhausted, I kept photographing her figure. Hey, looks like you've really gotten into the spirit of things.
そんなことないわよ。
A cheerful dialogue, the snow falling harder and harder as if in spite. And in the midst, a girl, smiling brilliantly in the viewfinder of the spent camera. Continuing to remember to smile for me even as her little body was battered at by the winds. Yeah, so I guess it's time. And with that word, she began walking toward the sea, just like last time.
そういえば、勉強し。
No, you keep that in commemoration.
わかった。
With a nod, she put it in her pocket. That was the license that I'd given her. That was one that I should never have had the chance to use. And then she unfastened that white vinyl ID bracelet that had been wrapped around her wrist and presented it to me. Are you giving this to me?
あげる。
I see. In that case, I'll keep it in commemoration. I stuffed that bracelet, whose twin hung on my wrist, into my pocket. And then, to the girl who was walking once more toward the sea, toward her retreating figure, I said my last words. Hey, can I ask you one last question? Do you want to be stopped right now? Or do you want to be pushed toward the sea? She stopped for a moment, the waves lapping at her feet. Her back remains this last turn toward me. A strong wind brought in a rolling wave, which crashed against her with chilly fury. And when she at last turned toward me,
さあ、どっちだろうね。よくわからないね。
she said this, she smiled for me one last time. Even as the cold waves battered at her, even with her tears streaming down her face, she still smiled for me. The last time around, she stopped at this. But this time there was no turning back. That's why I think she answered that way.
それじゃあ、 さよなら。
Well, in this manner did our voyage of 960 odd kilometers come to its conclusion. A voyage of 15 days and her voyage of 22 years finally at an end. She, who succeeded in perishing not on 7F or at home. She, who was one of 335,000 odd people to suicide in 2005. Blood type O. Name Setsumi. Age 22. Sex female. Color of ID bracelet white. That was all that was recorded of her. But I knew better. The truth was, she loved bikinis, was better at navigation than any computer, loved cars, even held a driver's license. She was usually expressionless and would not meet your face. But every so often, she would grace you with a bashful, sour-seeming expression. And with the Emerald Sea as her backdrop, she smiled for me as if she were flying, as if she were delighted, as if she were an honest-to-God bikini model. Yet somehow, there was only a single record of her smile captured in this cheap throwaway camera. Even so, even if it was just one picture, it was proof that we lived. What you thinking, Gabe?
It wasn't great. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it ever really came together or had a huge payoff for me. It wasn't terrible. Like, I mean, you know, it's a free 3-ish hour VN that just takes us longer because
眩しかった日のこと。
oh, that's cute.
そんな冬の日の
It
こ
was a blindingly bright day on that very day of winter.
That's cute.
That is pretty cute.
Yeah, that wasn't. The reviews hyped it up. I guess basically I was expecting more just based on what I had heard about it. I don't know. It wasn't like I get some of what it was trying to do. It seemed like a lot of it was kind of just meandering, and maybe there was stuff that I just kind of missed. I don't know. It didn't do a whole lot for me overall.
I'm basically with you exactly there. Like if this had ended up being like an anime movie or something, like maybe it would have been able to translate its feelings more.
Yeah.
Like and
Yeah.
cut out some of like the
Day 69 of not having any desires or goals
Yeah.
or destinations in mind.
because it was so clear where they were gonna go,
Yeah,
and we were just waiting for it to get to that point.
Like,
and even when we did get to that point,
I guess maybe its thing is like trying to say like those numbers or whatever, like those statistics that are constantly increasing, like aren't just numbers on a page, like they're people sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, like I guess it's just like the constant days of, you know, what do you want to do? Nothing really. Like we didn't learn all that much about them, even so. Like I guess we kind of got the sense early on, like okay, she likes cars, she's good with maps, she likes bikinis, and I guess maybe we learned like one thing each time that they were like, you know, today was another day we didn't do anything, but really, like, I guess we learned something about her each time, but it feels like we learned everything about her pretty early on, and maybe that's because we played, you know, the prequel first or something.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like we actually, you know, learn more about her all that much throughout the course of the game. Like, I felt like we knew her from the start, and then there was a lot of nothingness.
I could say that I enjoyed the second game more.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that, you know, isn't saying a whole lot. Like, I did enjoy it more.
This second game, you know, the prequel. So I figured, like, oh, it'll probably add to, like, the payoff of this one, and then it'll kind of make, you know, some more sense and be kind of better in hindsight. But even with the stuff that, like, it gave context to on this one, still didn't particularly hit any emotional, like, high notes for me.
Like, and the stuff that we did learn early on, like, I feel like even though we did learn, you know, her personality early on, like, I would have loved to have more references to Himiko. Like I would have loved to, like, have more nods to. I mean, I know that it came after, so that's why I'm not too surprised that it didn't. But at the same time, like, she at least, like, had a little bit more personality with Himiko, I feel like.
Yeah.
And knowing that she had that whole experience with Himiko, like that whole month with Himiko before getting to know this guy, like, it didn't seem like anything really changed for her life other than that she had money left over.
Right, yeah.
From,
you know,
or not left over, but.
The reflection, she still kind of remains the same aimless person.
Yeah.
So you see, like, a couple of little pieces here and there, but not really enough to make it worth anything. I don't know.
Like, I guess from a storytelling perspective is the only reason why I feel like you should have dove into that. But, like, I would believe that someone who, you know, you only got to know this person for a month, that's not going to completely change your entire personality just meeting this new person who's also fated to die. Like, I get that. So I'm not saying that she should have had, like, a whole, like, acted completely different. I'm just feeling like if you were going to have two games that, you know, are supposed to kind of go hand in hand with each other, if, you know, a writer might have thought, like, hey, I would love to, like, show that, like, reflect that this person was dear to her heart, and that she maybe is thinking about them while meeting this new person up until the point of her suicide. Like, it would have been nice if she was somehow thinking of Himiko before she killed herself. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that's asking too much or not, but
yeah, I don't know.
I just feel like it would have been.
And I'm looking at the reviews. I just, like, I legitimately wonder if I'm missing something. Like, if maybe there was stuff, like, underlying things that just went overhead for me. Because the reviews for this are 95% positive overall, out of, like, over 3,000 reviews, almost 4,000. And it's like, you know, made me cry. One of the small number of games made me cry. It's such a heartwarming, beautiful game. So glad I played it. Soul-moving novel about illness, life, and death. It's freeware. I mean, again, my biggest thing is, like, it was fine. It was free. I'm not really all that emotionally invested in it because I didn't pay for it. It's a free game. It's like I guess I couldn't expect too much, but it's like short and depressing, 10 out of 10. Hidden gem. One of the best VNs on Steam. Like, I'm like, really? I don't know. Like, I see that. I'm like, I don't.
I'm sorry. Have you played Steins Gate? No.
I mean, maybe I'm being, like, unfair comparison because, again, like, it's shorter.
Yeah,
It's pretty minimalist in all its production stuff. But even with that being said, like, the story still like it's a thing that's clearly would be carried by its story in this sense, and it didn't really resonate with me. I don't know. I'm not sure what it was, but yeah, kind of cool to play. I guess it was very different. But I don't know what else to say.
I think